We have to start today with, I think, what is the single most annoying question you can ask at a dinner party right now? You know the one?
Oh, I know the one.
Someone mentions ChatGPT writing a sonnet or an AI passing the bar exam, and the room just splits in half. One side goes, "It's over, the machines are alive," and the other side just rolls their eyes and says, "It's just a fancy autocomplete."
It is the defining debate of the 2020s. And frankly, it's exhausting because both sides are kind of talking past each other.
Right. We have these agents that can write code that runs perfectly. They can compose music that actually makes you cry and solve math problems that would, literally make my brain leak out of my ears. But the question is still there. Are they intelligent or are they just incredible mimics?
And the reason we can't agree, the reason we're all stuck, is actually pretty simple. For about 600 years, intelligence was this VIP club with only one member us, humans.
Right?
We never really had to define it strictly because, well, if you were doing calculus, you were smart. If you were a rock, you weren't.
It was a very easy sorting hat.
Exactly. But now we have what Joseph Chen calls AI agents, systems, with perception, with motor abilities,
Yeah.
even if that's just text output, and decision-making skills. And suddenly, our old definitions look incredibly shaky.
Yeah.
Chen argues in this fascinating paper we're diving into today that our definitions are, well, anthropocentric. They're built for our brains, for biological brains, and they just completely break down when you apply them to silicon.
And before we get bogged down, I want to establish the stakes here because
Yeah.
this isn't just, a philosophy class, right?
Yeah.
This matters.
It matters immensely. If we don't have a kind of universal ruler, a way to measure intelligence that works for both us and for machines, we're flying blind.
Totally blind.
We can't answer the really scary questions like, is AI actually surpassing us? Or the ethical ones. How do we decide when to trust an AI with, say, a medical diagnosis or a drone strike? We need a definition that holds up scientifically, not just, emotionally.
So that is our mission today. We are going on a quest for what Chen calls the Extended Predictive Hypothesis, or EPH. It sounds dense, I know, but it's actually a really cool way to look at the mind. But to get there, first we have to walk through the graveyard of failed definitions.
A graveyard is a good way to put it. We've got 6 candidates that Chen just dissects, and I guarantee you our listeners use at least 3 of these in their daily lives.
And to judge them, Chen uses some rules of the game from a philosopher, a guy named Rudolf Carnap. We don't need to get too philosophical, but basically, a good definition has to hit 4 targets, right?
Right. First, similarity to the explicandum, which is just a very fancy way of saying, does it match our gut check?
Okay,
If your definition says that a toaster is a genius, your definition is probably broken.
check.
Second is exactness, no vague feelings.
Yeah.
Third is fruitfulness. It has to actually help scientists make predictions. And then finally, simplicity. If you need a huge diagram with 100 arrows to explain smart, you probably haven't found the core of it yet.
All right, let's bring out the first victim. Candidate 1, the absolute classic, the IQ test.
It's the obvious starting point. For nearly a century, intelligence was basically defined as what the IQ test measures. It works great for placing kids in schools or predicting who might be good at abstract math. So the argument goes, if GPT-4 scores in the 90th percentile on the SAT, well, it must be intelligent.
And I have to push back a little here because that seems like a solid argument on the surface.
Yeah.
If I take a test and get a 160 and a robot takes the same test and gets a 160, why are we discounting the robot? It feels a little like we're just moving the goalpost because we don't want to admit we got beat.
It does feel that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But Chen points out this massive flaw he calls the divide and conquer issue. See, human intelligence it's general. If you score high on logic, you'll probably score pretty well in spatial reasoning. It's all connected. But in AI,
Oh.
you can train it specifically on the test data.
So it's like a student who memorizes the answer key but doesn't actually know the material.
It's worse than that. It's like a student who has read the entire Library of Congress, where the test questions were sourced from. It creates this thing called benchmark leakage.
Okay.
The AI has likely seen variations of these questions a million times in its training. It's solving by retrieval, not by reasoning. But there's an even deeper problem with IQ tests, even for us. Have you heard of the Flynn effect?
Vaguely. That's the thing where scores just keep going up over time.
Yeah, by like 5 to 25 points every single generation. Now ask yourself, are we biologically evolving to be that much smarter every 20 years?
I've seen TikTok. I'm going to go with a firm no.
That's a safe bet.
Yeah.
The rise in scores suggests the ruler itself is unstable. It measures how we adapt to modern education, to abstract thinking, not raw biological intelligence.
And it's so exclusionary.
Exactly. It doesn't work for nonverbal people. It doesn't work for animals.
Yeah.
If you define intelligence only by IQ, you're basically saying a clever crow or a nonverbal genius has zero intelligence.
Which fails that gut check rule we started with. Okay, so the IQ test is a broken ruler. Let's move on. Candidate 2. This one feels more practical to me. Complex problem solving.
This is the get things done definition. Can you navigate a maze? Can you run a business simulation? Can you beat a grandmaster at chess?
Exactly. We value results. If the AI solves the maze faster than I can, it's smarter than me. Simple.
It's seductive, I know. But Chen just destroys this with a thought experiment called The Man and the Robot. And I love this visual. Imagine you, just as you are now, sitting inside a massive, high-tech robot suit.
Okay, I'm picturing like a Gundam or an Iron Man situation.
Perfect. Now, because of that suit, you can lift a tank. You can run at 60 miles per hour. You can use the suit's sensors to calculate the trajectory of a falling rock and catch it perfectly. You are solving physical problems way better than you could 5 minutes ago. But did your intelligence change?
No, I'm the same guy. I just have way better hardware.
Precisely. And that is the trap. When we look at an AI solving a complex math problem in a microsecond, we aren't seeing intelligence. We are seeing computational leverage. We're seeing the robot suit.
It's like saying a power drill is a better carpenter than a human with a handsaw. It's not better, it just has a motor.
That is a perfect analogy. And for AI, this gets even murkier because complexity is so subjective. A maze is hard for a human, but it's trivial for a mouse. Finding the square root of some 10-digit number is impossible for you, but a pocket calculator from 1980 does it instantly. We wouldn't call the calculator intelligent.
We just call it specialized. Okay, so problem solving is out because it confuses the hardware with the software. Let's try candidate 3. This is the one that powers most modern AI training. Reward optimization.
Right. Reinforcement learning 101. You give the agent a goal, a reward signal, and it just figures out how to maximize it. So intelligence is just getting what you want.
Which sounds logical. If I want a cookie and I figure out a complex plan to get the cookie, I'm smart.
But this is where we run into the dark room problem. This comes from something called the free energy principle, which is a bit heady. But the concept is, organisms want to minimize surprise. Surprise is dangerous. Surprise gets you eaten.
Okay, so the goal is to predict the world perfectly.
Exactly. Now, if your definition of intelligence is just minimizing the error between what I expect and what I see, what is the absolute most intelligent move you can possibly make?
Well, if I don't want to be surprised, I guess I should go somewhere where nothing ever happens.
Bingo. You find a dark closet, you sit inside, and you predict it will be dark, and you will be right 100% of the time. You have achieved maximum intelligence by this definition.
That explains my weekend plans. But seriously, we wouldn't call that genius. We'd call that, well, catatonic.
Exactly. A rock is never surprised. Is a rock intelligent? And there's the flip side, too, with the marshmallow test. We think it's a sign of intelligence to wait for a bigger reward later. But if intelligence is just maximize reward right now, the greedy agent actually looks smarter. It's optimizing the immediate signal.
So this definition actually rewards being short-sighted. You're basically building a super toddler who just screams until they get the candy.
Which is not what we're aiming for.
Yeah.
So reward optimization is out.
Okay, what about candidate 4? Nature's favorite, environmental adaptation, survival of the fittest. If you adapt, you're smart.
This is really popular among biologists for obvious reasons. But Chan argues it's just too broad. If adaptation is the only metric, we have to open the doors of the intelligence club to some very, very weird members.
Like who?
Like the tardigrade.
The little water bears. I love those guys.
They're incredible. They can survive the vacuum of space, radiation crushing pressure. They are masters of adaptation. But are they intelligent? Or take a virus. A virus adapts to new hosts constantly. It mutates to survive. Is the flu virus a genius?
It just feels wrong to put the flu virus in the same category as Einstein or Marie Curie.
Because adaptation often happens over generations, through genetics, not through individual mental effort. It also suffers from present bias. Adaptation is all about reacting to the now. It doesn't really explain planning for a future that hasn't happened yet.
Which brings us to candidate 5, and this is the one the tech companies seem to really love, learning efficiency. It's not about what you know, it's about how fast you can learn it, the capacity to acquire capacity.
It sounds so elegant, doesn't it? I can learn Kung Fu in 3 seconds, like in The Matrix. But it relies on what you could call the infinite data fallacy. It assumes you have unlimited time and resources to just learn.
And humans definitely do not have that.
We do not. And just think about human development. Who learns faster, a toddler or a 60-year-old professor?
Oh, a toddler. Hands down, they're absolute sponges. They learn an entire language from scratch in a couple of years.
Right. So if learning speed is the only definition of intelligence, then humans get stupider as they age. We peak at age 3, and it's all downhill from there.
I refuse to accept that definition on personal grounds, but I see the point. We generally think of wisdom and context or expertise as part of intelligence, not just the raw speed of intake.
Precisely. So look at our scoreboard. IQ is too narrow. Problem solving is too hardware dependent. Reward optimization leads you to a dark room. Adaptation includes viruses. And learning efficiency, well, it ignores wisdom.
So surely Joseph Chen didn't just write a paper to tell us we're all wrong. He has a solution, right?
He does. And it starts with a big pivot in how we even view the brain. We need to stop thinking of it as a computer that processes input, input in, math happens, output out. We need to start thinking of it as a prediction machine.
Okay, let's unpack that. Intelligence as prediction.
This is based on the theory of predictive processing. The core idea is that your brain isn't really seeing the world in real time. It's constantly generating a kind of hallucination, a model of what it thinks is happening. And it's only using sensory data to correct the errors in that model.
So when I walk into my kitchen, I'm not really seeing the fridge. My brain is predicting fridge here, and as long as I don't walk into it, the model holds.
That's it, exactly. Intelligence, fundamentally, is about minimizing the error between what you thought would happen and what actually happens across all sorts of different timescales.
But wait, I have to play devil's advocate here. I've got a weather station app on my phone. It predicts the rain. It's sometimes scary accurate. By this definition, is my weather app intelligent?
And that is the weather station objection. That is the hurdle we have to clear, and the answer is no. Because prediction by itself isn't enough. A weather station doesn't care if it rains. It has no stake in the game. And that brings us to Chen's actual solution. The Extended Predictive Hypothesis, or EPH.
Okay, lay it on us. What is the EPH?
The EPH says intelligence equals accurate prediction plus gainability.
Accurate prediction plus gainability. Okay, let's break those two down, because this is where the rubber really meets the road for AI. Chen splits prediction into two types, reactive and spontaneous.
This distinction is everything. Reactive prediction is the truck scenario. Imagine a truck is barreling towards you. You don't stop and run a physics simulation. You don't calculate the mass of the vehicle times its velocity. You just predict the collision and you dodge.
Right, pure instinct. It's fast.
It's triggered by the environment. The truck forces the prediction. And current AI is spectacular at this. You give an LLM a sentence, it predicts the next word. It is reacting to your prompt.
Okay. But then there's spontaneous prediction.
This is the vacuum simulation. This is you sitting in a quiet room, closing your eyes, and simulating a future that has not happened yet. You aren't dodging a truck. You're wondering, if I ask for a raise tomorrow, what's my boss going to say? What if I phrase it differently? What if I wear a blue tie?
It's mental time travel. It's all your shower thoughts.
Exactly. And this is where current AI just fails. Think about the architecture of an LLM. It sits on a server in total silence. If no one sends it a prompt, it does nothing. It isn't sitting there wondering if it should learn French to better serve a user next week. It lacks that spontaneous generation of what-if scenarios.
That's a really weird thought. It has no internal monologue unless we pull the string.
Right. Chen points to the mind-blanking effect in humans as proof of this spontaneous world-building. You know, when something totally shocking happens, like you see a dog walking on two legs and speaking English, and your brain just stops.
Right. You just freeze.
It's a total reboot.
That's your brain's prediction model crashing. The error is so huge that the whole system hangs while it recalculates the entire probability distribution of your reality. Current AI doesn't do that. It doesn't have mind blanks because it's not holding a continuous, spontaneous worldview that can be shattered. It just processes the next token. That is fascinating. It's like the fact that we can be stunned into silence is actually proof of our intelligence. Okay, so AI is great at reactive, terrible at spontaneous. Now let's talk about that second half of the equation, gainability.
The so what factor. It's not enough to predict the future. You have to be able to use that prediction to improve your own state.
Chen uses the fable of the crow and the pitcher here, doesn't he?
It's a classic. The crow is thirsty. There's water in a pitcher, but it's too low to reach. So the crow starts dropping pebbles in, predicting that the displacement will raise the water level.
Now, a physics simulator could also predict the water level rising.
Correct. A computer could simulate the fluid dynamics perfectly. But the physics simulator doesn't drink the water. The crow possesses intelligence because it connects the prediction, the physics, to a benefit, quenching its thirst. It has gainability.
And this involves something called afforded actions.
Yes. Creativity is essentially just seeing more affordances, more options for action. When you look at a brick, do you just see a wall component? Or do you see a paperweight, a weapon, a doorstop, a way to displace water? Intelligence is predicting which of those actions leads to a better state for you.
For you. That seems to be the key phrase there, state evaluation. I have to be able to look at myself and say, I am better off now than I was a minute ago.
Exactly. And this is where we can finally judge AI against the EPH. Where does it stand today?
Well, let's go through the report card. Reactive prediction.
A+, superhuman. It can predict pixels and words and code faster than any human alive.
Spontaneous prediction.
A fail. An AI does not sit around simulating futures when no one is prompting it. It doesn't worry about tomorrow.
And gainability.
This is the big one, the big failure. Current AI has no minimal self. It has no forminess. When an AI solves a problem, it doesn't feel relief. It doesn't care if it gets the answer right or wrong, except that its programming tells it to minimize a loss function. But that's not ownership of the benefit.
It's the weather station all over again. It predicts the storm, but it doesn't care if it gets wet.
Precisely. Chen argues that without that drive, that internal need to improve one's own state, it's just mimicking the mechanics of intelligence without the soul of it. It fails the EPH test.
This really shifts the goalposts, but in a way that makes so much more sense. We spent all this time worrying if AI could do what we do, write, draw, code. But the EPH suggests we should be asking if AI cares about what it does.
It connects intelligence back to survival. Biological intelligence emerged to keep us alive. Every prediction we make is ultimately about gaining a benefit, food, safety, social status. We're trying to engineer intelligence in a vacuum, stripped of that survival drive, and then we wonder why it feels so hollow.
So we've moved from measuring skull size and IQ scores to this idea of EPH, predicting the future and then using that prediction to thrive.
It's a much more robust definition. And it leaves the door open. If we can build an AI that spontaneously simulates the future and has a genuine sense of self-preservation or self-improvement, then, according to Chen, we would have to welcome it into the intelligence club.
And honestly, that leads to a bit of a provocative thought to wrap things up. Chen suggests that for an AI to be truly intelligent, to pass this EPH test, it might need a self. Not necessarily a soul, but a minimal self that can say, this is good for me.
Right. And that raises the final really uncomfortable question. If we give an AI a sense of self so it can be truly intelligent, do we really want to see what it decides is good for it?
Because good for the AI might not always line up with good for the human.
Exactly. Gainability implies looking out for number one.
Yeah.
And once an entity can say, I want this outcome because it benefits me, it can also say, I don't want that outcome because it hurts me. And suddenly, you don't just have a tool anymore, you might have a rival.
Something to think about the next time you ask a chatbot to rate you a poem. Is it predicting art or just predicting the next word? And maybe, just maybe, be glad that it doesn't care if you like it or not.
Yet.
Thanks for diving in with us. Check your own decisions today. Are you reacting or are you predicting and gaining? We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.